Joining us now with more on the unexpected leadership shakeup is Richard Whittaker, senior staff writer at the Austin Chronicle. And full disclosure, you may know the Chronicle's co-founder is one of the co-founders and still a co-owner of South by. Richard, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So Richard, first, can we talk about how significant is the sudden departure of Hugh Forrest? He certainly had a major role throughout most of the existence of South by.
After the departure a couple of years ago of Roland Swenson, I think this is by far the biggest departure we could have heard about. Hugh has been part of South by since 1989, so really,
Since the beginning, almost.
The third festival, but really the second year of the existence of the company. He's been part of the team, but he really stepped up in '94 when they added film and interactive, and he really took over programming at that point. So when you think of modern South by, much of the creation is down to Hugh's vision, Hugh's idea for what it should be, Hugh's idea of how it could expand to include interactive, to include technology, to really become a convergence festival. This comes back to Hugh, and he's been the guy for over 30 years now. So you take that out, and that is a huge change in the leadership. At the end of the day, when people wanted to call South by, they wanted to call Hugh. And it's not to say that there's not people capable of making decisions at South by, but for the last few years, they would have been run past Hugh, at least, if they hadn't come from Hugh in the first place. So this is a huge change.
Undoubtedly a monumental loss. And what else, though, do you know about potentially others being forced out or let go?
Well, this is a weird time. There were a few people who I know were planning to head out anyway, particularly on the music side, and they were just looking at retirement or looking at doing something else because they'd been there for so long. However, I haven't had precise numbers, but what I've heard is somewhere between 10 and 11 people, some of them in very senior leadership positions, a lot of behind-the-scenes people rather than necessarily people who, people may even know from being interviewed about their section of the festival. The big thing was this seems to be very much out of the blue. People did not see this coming.
And last year, there were layoffs as well. Last summer, over 20 employees laid off. And we know, and you brought this up, that the festival's ownership has changed and amid financial troubles due to the pandemic and then the layoffs last summer. Can you shed light on why you believe these changes are being made and what's happening to South by?
I think you're dealing with a handful of things, and you've got to look at the three different sub-brands effectively South by. Film is doing fantastically. Claudette took over from Janet Pearson. She's changed the direction a little bit, but it's still South by. It's still arguably the most important American film festival of the first half of the year. Tribeca's putting a bit of competition in this year up in New York, but that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. At the same time, music has been faltering. Music was the big dog for the longest time, and the music industry's just changed. They've had trouble retaining kind of the venues down on Red River and 6th Street. It's much more moved out to 7th Street. That's been an issue for them, and that's been undeniable. On the interactive side, the tech industry just isn't throwing money around like it used to, and you could see that this year. There were fewer interactive badges being sold, which is mainly what the tech people are going for. There were fewer pop-ups and venues for tech stuff. So they're facing a lot of challenges. The market's shifting, the resources they've depended upon are shifting. So I think those decisions are being made in that light. Are they for the best is the big question, because when you're getting rid of somebody like Hugh, everybody who talks to South by talks to Hugh. People who make big decisions. When the word came out, one of the first responses was, well, I hope Hugh left his contact list behind, because there's going to be so many people who are used to dealing directly with him and his team. You take them out of the equation, you've got to ask who's going to be stepping up to replace them.
And while South by Southwest has, of course, seen changes over the years, these certainly seem like the most pressing and definitely the biggest ones to watch. And we will be watching as next year's festival takes shape. Richard Whittaker with the Austin Chronicle, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment below to let us know your thoughts on this video. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Austin Insight for free in the PBS app.